This class we have discussed about bank groups, how to create bank groups and bank accounts. So what are the requirements that we have to assign in the bank account, like the main account for the bank. So separate main account for each bank we have created, and then we have entered the information in on the bank master record. So various fields were available, so you could add all the details related to your bank in those fields. Later we have used that created banks for posting some transactions. We have posted some revenue transactions, so which brings in money into the bank. So we have added different transaction types to that. Then I have showed you how you can check the balances in the bank and the transaction that were posted to the bank. So we have covered it until there. So today we are about to discuss the check mechanism in cash and bank management. Different types of checks we have and how a check can be printed using dynamics or in dynamics, how we can print a check. Then what how we can create checks for banks. We'll see all those details today. Okay, so I'm in this module cash and bank management. So I'm going to bank accounts here. So I'm going to this bank ICICI. Under setup I can see layout. So in the layout I can define the check layouts, the structure of the check, sizes, margins and all, so that details will be printed accurately on the check. So normally bank only will give you checks. On the check, your details and everything will be automatically there. You just have to print the how much money that you are paying or writing on the check, and then to which particular vendor you are assigning the check for or you are paying the check for. So that person name, the company name, then the amount that you're paying in the in numeric terms and in the alphabetical terms. So that will be added as well as a signature. You can also add a digital signature directly. So not most of them use the check mechanism. I mean, printing the checks from Dynamics, they'll print it in their own way. They have simple ways to print details on the check. They can rearrange it in a template of Word and they can just put the check in the printer and get the details printed on the check. So it's easy. But here, even in Dynamics, we have this mechanism which normally prints the details directly on the check when a vendor payment is done, and it will maintain a separate record of the checks about the checks that are paid, cancelled, or that were bounced or voided, damaged checks. So we can do everything with the checks or maintain the record of checks, what happened to our list of checks. So for that purpose, we can configure the checks in and we can use the checks. So here I am in the cash and bank management. Under setup, select this and go to layout of check. First, we have to design the layout of the check. So let me edit this page of layout. See this one, check number method. Yesterday I told you either free method or fixed method. So if it is free means bank does not allow check numbers on the checks that bank gives to you. It only gives you checks with blank numbers. So you can give your own numbers on your checks if you want to. Or it is fixed method, most common in India, where bank gives the check numbers on the check or already prints the check number. So you have to use the same check numbers or as the reference numbers. You will create those checks in Dynamics as well. As, I mean, with that numbers, unique numbers, so that whenever that check is paid, here also that number check uh, will be paid or just recorded as paid. Or if it was cancelled, so it can be recorded as cancelled here in Dynamics as well. So that's with fixed numbers. Let's see how the fixed numbers works and how I'll also create one free numbers for the other bank. Then in order to export the check, what kind of format you need? So US check format, or we have other different country check formats here. So most common is this one, US check format. So I'm selecting that. Or other than that, if you don't want this US check format or standard format, if you want to define your own electronic reporting format for exporting check, you can also use this option, generic electric export format. So when you enable this, it will show up here. So general in this electric export format needs some technical configuration and a design. So once it is designed, you can use this format. It will be in the drop down. Generally now it is empty. Not so common, but you can design your own format in this electric export format. So that will help you out. But here I'm using a standard format that's already given. Um, then prefix, if you want to give any prefix like currency, enter the text to be printed in the amount on the check. For example, US dollar in the field to print US dollar 1000. So normally 1000 will be printed. If you want that US dollar to be printed on the check, you can give it like this so that this US dollar will be printed on the check just before the numeric amount that is entered on the check. Or if for Indian company, India, you can give INR or rupee symbol. Anything will work. Then we have check date format and check date separator. So this is common in Canada, but for not all countries. So these formats, if here it is disabled, it's not required since it prints some date directly. Then this is the important page where you have to give the margin details. So how many pages normally the check would, uh, how many inches check would look like, millimeters or centimeters, you can say 11 inches. Okay, and unprintable margin, bottom unprintable margin, I'm leaving it as 00. Check start position, from where check have to start. You can give check should start from 3 millimeters. It will leave some margin on the top. You can say one. It should leave 1 inch margin on the top, because on 1 inch margin there would be some information, right? So it should not print anything on that 1 inch margin. So bottom also you can leave 1 inch margin where you normally see this MICR code or black color quoted code on the check. So if you don't want to print anything over there, you can leave bottom margin also. You can say check start position like 3 millimeters, or after 1 inch. You can say here if you give 1 inch margin, so after that another 2 millimeters you can use. So after that it will print. So it is just like for adjusting the length so that it will be printed accurately on the check. So if you don't give or don't adjust margins whenever you print it, details on the check, so it might overlap or fall onto some other uh, already existing details on the check. So it has to be in a correct place, right? When you print a vendor name or a amount or numeric amount or the alphabetical amount representation amount, so that should be in a correct blank where it has to be filled in. So for that, you normally adjust these layouts, and you can print some test checks to understand how it is being printed. Is it correctly printing according to the margins of the check, or if we need to adjust anything, you can again adjust. So number of slip copies. Slip copies are generally for reference sake. Once after printing check, it also prints some 2 or 3 slip copies. You can two maximum of 2 slip copies so that you can keep them as reference that you have sent this check to this particular vendor. So physical copy will be printed. So then what all details that you want to add on to the check to be printed. So bank account, yes, I want it. Bank name, I want it. Bank number, I want it. Company name, also I want it. You can also add company logo. If you want company logo to be printed on the check again, that company logo you have to upload here. If you upload the company logo here, so it will use the company logo for printing on the check, but not most of them prefer to print company logos on the check. Some people will print them as watermarks too, but that's okay. I'm not adding the company logo. And most common in US like ABC codes. So if you want these codes to be printed on the check, you can give this print A code, and you can give the A code details here. So that code will also be printed on the check. For our example, I'm not preferring to add any codes. Then print MICR line is one we have. So this MICR line is a kind of magnetic line that we have in the bottom of the check in the black color. So that MICR line, it will be already there on the check. Actually, in Indian checks, we have every detail already there on the check. So in case if you want to print it again, you can enable this option, and you can give this MICR line here, the details of that line, so that it will print on the check directly in the bottom of the check. Then leading zeros is one we have. So if even for this MSCI line, if it is having zeros in the starting point, so if the leading zeros has to be there or not is what it is asking. So normally it's like 0001284 like that if it is having. So if the zeros has to be added or not, it is asking. Length of check number, number of characters that should be entered in the MSCR line for the check number. So how many characters has to be added in the MSCR line, you can decide here and accordingly you can give here. So this is only for that MSCR line, printing the MSCR line details. I'm not opting to print it out, so I just left it over. Next options I have is signatures. So you can add up to a maximum of 2 signatures according to the limit on the check. So you can print one signature if the check limit is up to 1 lakh. So up to 1 lakh, there is one signature. So up to 5 lakhs, I can say. So if it is more than 1 lakh, I need this signature also. 2 signatures has to be there. I can give it in this way. Print first signature if it is up to 1 lakh, and if it is exceeding 1 lakh, I should have 2 signatures or at least this signature, second signature. So digital signatures you can upload here. Here you can see the 3 dots option. Here you can upload a digital signature, signature 1 and signature 2, so that signature will be printed automatically on the check. Okay, this you can add here. So automatically check signature will be printed. Print signature will be printed on the check. So I'm just disabling them, not adding anything. Then copies, print signatures as void, print signatures as copy, something we have. Normally the option selection is signatures as void only. Then any watermarks if you want. So normally for voiding of checks we can use watermarks, otherwise we can use none. We don't want any watermarks on the check. Right? Normally you don't have anything additional that has to be printed on the check other than these details. So watermarks means something that will have behind, or it will be added as an additional design or a logo on the check or any other deed. Some people will cancel the checks and they'll print that watermark of cancelled for sharing the cancelled check to their business users or business partners or somebody who have to send money to them. So for that purpose, you can cancel check by having a watermark on it. So these are all not required. So just set them as no. And that would be all about how we configure a check. So we can try to print a check, a test check, and see if it is working here. So we have this option of print test check, negotiable format, non-negotiable check format. I'll use this one, non-negotiable check format. So print on screen here. It will take some time to load and print on screen. It is just for testing. Okay. Original checks are printed and generated, or you can generate a check only through one journal, vendor payment journal. So other than that journal, you cannot print checks anywhere. I mean, you cannot generate checks anywhere. So only vendor payment journal helps you to generate checks. It still takes some time since it is the first print today. Yeah, it is printed as you can see here. It's here, PDF, download it. So just showing the receipt as void because it's an empty check, right? So here you can see your company name, Reliance Industries Limited, and address. Then your bank details, ICICI current account and all. Then you can see this one. US dollar amount is printed here and the amount in words is printed here. So that's how date is here. And this is just a copy slips with it has two slips, right? So check is until here only, until here. This one, this part. So normally this information will be printed on the check. If you if you want to print on the check, this will be printed. Here the recipient address or the name will be printed in this area. So that's how it looks like basically. Then that would be all about this check layout, how you can configure it. So after configuring check layout, actually we have given fixed method, right? Fixed method means, so we should assume that bank would have given us a list of checks, like starting from one number to another number, it would have given us a bunch of checks. So let us assume bank gave us a 10 checks in the checkbook, starting from check number 100 to check number 109. So we can create our checks here in the bank account. So for creating such checks, that will be the next step, creation of checks. So here I have option manage payments, not under setup, under manage payments. I have this related information called as checks here. Related information, checks. So if I click on checks, I see it's empty here. So I can create some checks here for the purpose of usage. So since it is fixed means we have to create the checks in initially only, check numbers. So here I have the option of create checks. Click on create checks. So you can give a number from where it is starting. If it is starting from 1, you can give 1. Or if the bank gives random numbers, right, normally. So if it gives 100, starting from 100, so you can give the quantity, how much quantity of checks bank have given to you. Bank gave me 10 quantity, suppose. You can click on OK. So you can see 10 checks are created. Check number 100, 101, 102, 34, and 109. Here I can see bank account number. So it's ICICI bank account. Then check number, status of the check is created. It is now in the created status, means just created, not yet used. If you would have paid somebody using the check, the status will change to paid. If you cancel it, it will change to cancelled. So, or if you void it, it will change to voided. So we'll see all of them. What are those situations where we pay, cancel, and void the checks? So I can see date here. So normally when you post these checks or use these checks, you will see a following date here, whenever it is done. Recipient name means the vendor to whom you have paid these checks to, that particular vendor name or the receiver name will be here. Currency and the amount of that is printed on the check, or how much amount the check is generated for, that will be shown up here. And remember one point, you can delete the checks only when they are in the status of created. Suppose if I don't want this check, I can delete the check here. So it asks me from which range to which range you want to delete the check. I want to delete only 109, right? I say 109 to 109. If I want to delete from 105 to 109, all of them, I can say in this way. 105 to 109, all the 5 checks will be deleted. If I say only 109 to 109, only one check will be deleted. So you see check number 109 is deleted. So only when they are in the created status, then only we can able to delete them. If they are in any other status like paid or cancelled or voided, you cannot delete them again. That's one. Again, upon paying or canceling or anything, you will see this invoices, transactions, vouchers, and all of these options being enabled for you. Means if at all you pay this check against any invoice, you will see the invoice details here. Or you can see the transactions posted and the voucher posted. If you can also reverse a paid check, so you can use this mechanism payment reversal, which we will discuss further in the class. So you can also print the check copy once again just for reference sake here. So this is how we can create checks in the bank. So if bank gives more checks, you can again click on create checks. It will take the number range from 109 again. As you can see, if you want another range like 201 or 200, you can, sorry, 200, you can give 200 and give another 10 quantity. Click on OK. See, another 10 starting from 200 are created. It's all up to you. How bank gives you the numbers, you can use them. You can delete checks if you want again, starting from 200 to 209. Sorry, all of them are deleted. So that's how we can create checks in bank. Then for SBI Bank also, I'll give this check layout and checks and all. So I'm going to set up check layout. So for this bank, I'll give free method, not fixed method. Okay, here also I'll give a fix as US dollar. Then paper length as 11 inches. And these are all I'm just leaving as 0. Number of slips I'll give 2. Print bank account, bank name, bank number, company name, yes. And nothing else. I'll just keep it as none. So I'm using free method, not fixed method. So under free method, I don't have to create any checks. So I can take any number that I want. Normally in the fixed method, whenever you are going to generate check, it will take the one of the check numbers from here that you have created. So it will take first check number, sorry, not this. So first it will take check number 100. Next time when you are printing another check, it will take check number 101. So it takes the existing check numbers, fixed numbers. Whereas it comes to free checks for the SBI Bank, it won't take any check. It will take the check number as we give. Whatever the number we give, accordingly it will take on the check number. So we can manually give the number during the generation of check. So that I'll show you further. So this is all about how we can configure a check layout and add checks. So for this, you don't need to add any checks here. No need to create checks. Let it be empty for this bank. As I told you, if you want to generate a check, you have to make a vendor payment. It can only be done through vendor payment journal. So for demonstrating that, I might have to do some setups now in the accounts payable module, which I'll quickly do it. You just follow the video and do the configuration, but later part when we go to the accounts payable module, I'll again explain all those steps elaboratively. I mean, why we are creating that configuration and also, but for now, just for the sake of generation of the check and show the different scenarios with check, I'll just quickly create some configurations in the accounts payable module. So it's up some 3 to 4 steps I have that I have to create. Accounts payable. Go to vendor groups. Edit this vendor group number 1. Domestic vendors. Save it. Go back. All vendors. Create a new vendor. It's okay. Just give the vendor a name. Tata company. And it belongs to the group. Domestic vendors. Save. Then accounts payable. Set up vendor posting profiles. New. So this is what called posting profile. Normally we link this accounts payable account to the vendors here. So I'm just creating one account called as accounts payable account. I'll just give it a number. 2,30,000. It's payable. Okay, it's a liability account. Just create it here. Save it. Okay. We'll just also say this one, do not allow manual entry since it's a control account. So I'll give that account here, accounts payable. No, it's not showing. 2,30,000. Here it is. So that's all. I just created this posting profile and linked an account for all the vendors, one account only. So whenever I do any transactions for the vendor, this account will get debited and created parallel in the general ledger. Now I'll go for another small configuration under setup accounts payable parameters. In this I have ledger and sales tax. Here I have to give the posting profile general. So the one that we created, I have to assign it here. Another step. Then I will go to vendor payment journal. So here payment journal. I'll again show you the navigation once it loads. So here it is, accounts payable, payments and payment journal, this one, payments and payment journal. So here, in order to create a journal, normally we need to have a journal name, right? But we don't have any journal name for the purpose. So we can create one journal name. Click on new first anyway. So if you drop down here to select a journal name, you don't see anything because for this area, you need to create a separate journal. It's not a normal daily journal, right? It's for vendor payment. So we have to click on view details. It will take you to the journal names page, or you could have directly gone to the journal names page in the general ledger. Anything you can do. Click on new vendor pay. Vendor payment journal. So the journal type is important. It's the vendor disbursement. Where is this? Yeah. Vendor disbursement is the journal type. So when you give this journal type, then only you can see the journal in the available in the vendor payment journal. So this is one requirement. Vendor disbursement should be the journal type. Then voucher series, can design a voucher series accordingly. So vendor pay, company specific, Reliance. Company name is not required. Just give the vendor pay 6 digits. It's continuous. This should be the format. Vendor payment, vendor pay 000001 will be the first voucher. Created. Go back. Can assign the same voucher series here. It's taken. That's how we can create this journal. This journal is created now. Now if I go back and if I use the drop down, I can see the journal name, vendor payment journal. So I can select the vendor payment journal. So I have created a vendor also earlier like Tata company. For that I'll pay some advance payments now by using a check. Okay. So for that I'm just going to lines here. We forgot one more setup actually. That has to be configured. I'll just show you that one as well quickly. So we have to create a method of payment actually. So it's again in accounts payable, methods of payment here under payment setup, accounts payable, last method, payment setup, methods of payment. So don't worry, everything that I am creating now, I'll explain you in detail again during accounts payable module. Okay, I'll just create a new method of payment, call it as check. Check payment. Payment status sent. Period invoice, okay. Or I'll just keep it as total. Payment type, check. Account type, bank. Okay. Bank transaction type, check payment. For export format, I'll set up here, file format setup. Check. Save. Back. Export format. Check. Perfect. So I'll just keep it as it is. That's all. I'm not adding anything else. So that's how I just created a method of payment as check. Now I can close this page, go back to the vendor payment that I'm doing. Here, if you would select by default, a vendor account will show up, not the ledger account. So I'll again refresh this one. I'll create this line again. So if I select account, I'll see Tata company, not the ledger account. So here in the vendor payment journal, normally you see the main account as vendor. So if I am selecting the vendor, I'll also see the vendor name here. It will reflect in a well. Yeah, it is here. So you can add a description. Advance payment. So when you are making any payments to the vendor, vendor will be debited or credited. You are paying him, he is the receiver, right? So he will be debited all the time. So I'll just give $1,000 as a debit, so that vendor will be debited for $1,000. So we have to pay it through our bank, right? We have to print a check for this $1,000. So I will select the offset account here as bank offset account type, and I'll select one bank from the list of two banks. That way I'll select this one, ICICI Bank. Then the method of payment, you can select a method of payment. So the method of payment we have already created, right? Check, just now we have created. So I'll select that check as a method of payment. Then the check number you can't give here manually. Normally you have to generate a check from here. So once you generate check number will automatically appear here, and payment status will automatically change to sent, means check is sent. Okay. You can add it here. You can add some notes if you want, any rough notes if you have, that has to be added. So this is how we can create a vendor payment transaction normally. So you know usually use different methods of payment. You create them electronic UPI and all. I'll further will discuss all of that, how to create different methods of payment and use them. Initially, this is how we can make a payment. So I selected a vendor account. Vendor is debited, and then the offset account I selected bank, that has to be credited, right? And then selected the method of payment as check. Now the next step is to generate the check. So to generate check, you have to go to here, generate payments, this one. Give the method of payment here. Again, method of payment is check. Export format it asks. You will have to check export format. Select this one, check again. Which bank? ICICI Bank. Okay. So method of payment method is check. Export format is check. Bank account. Okay. Then you can click on OK here. Then you see here automatically check number 100 is picked here, because in the ICICI Bank the first list is in the list of checks, the first number is 100. So automatically the 100 number is taken in the bank account, you can see here. So you can't edit this check number again because it's a fixed check number, right? So it will take the check number as it is from the list of checks. If you want any blank checks, you can use it here, number of blank checks. We are not going to print any blank checks anyway. Then document, just click here, document, to print it on the screen. So not by default it will go to the printer. Actually I will print it on the screen so that a PDF will be downloaded just for our purpose. Okay, then I can click on OK here. Normally in the free checks you can edit this one, you can give any number you want. So we'll do that for SBI Bank as well. So it takes a while actually. Here it is, the check printed. If I open this, I can see this details. It's a rough check actually. You can see US dollar 1000 printed for the date November 18, 2021. 1000 US dollar, Tata company, then your company name and your bank details. That's all. And here is the slips of check number 100 and check number 100. Normally you can see some details here if you had given some remittance address to the vendor. So you can give that remittance address to the vendor and that will be printed here on the slips or in this place. So this is basically how the checks are generated and printed. If you normally keep your original check in the printer, and that is these details will be printed on that original check if you select the option of printer instead of screen while you are generating the check. Okay. Then if you go back to your bank account now, to cash and bank management, bank accounts. So this check that we have posted is for ICICI Bank check, right? So we can go to the ICICI Bank. Here, go to checks. Here the manage payments and checks. See here this check is showing as paid. Here on the particular date, and check number 100 is paid to this vendor. If you click on this, it will automatically take you to the vendor account. So the vendor Tata, vendor code, this one is, then currency US dollar, 1000 US dollars. It is not paid against any invoice, right? So I don't see any invoice. It will be nothing, empty. I can't see a voucher also here. If I click on this, I don't see a voucher also. Why I don't see a voucher? Any guess? Anyone? And go to the payment journal here. I don't see any voucher for it yet. Any idea why? Any guess? The payment also will get check, but we just generated the check. We did not post it this journal yet. See, post is not done. If you post, then only you will have financial impacts, right? Without posting, no accounts will get affected. This is just a journal that we created and generated a payment. Once generated, the payment status will change to sent and check number will be brought onto the journal. Okay, now we have to post the journal to get affected in our books. So that's the last step we have. So if I can validate and post it, validate if there are any errors. No errors, it's right, and I can post it. So now it is posted. So if it is posted now, then I can see this voucher highlighted here for the payment journal, the line that we have posted. So normally here, ICICI bank account will get credited and accounts payable account will get debited. So why accounts payable account is getting debited here? Any idea? Anyone? Instead of vendor, I see accounts payable account getting debited here. And in bank account, so I can see the account that I link it to the bank account. This is the main account that I link it to the bank account, right? That will get credited here since money is going off from the bank. And the accounts payable account in the earlier setup for the accounts payable, we have done this one accounts payable posting profile. So because of that posting profile, I can see this ledger account that is linked to the vendor is getting debited here normally. So in the vouchers, you don't see any subledger accounts like banks or vendors getting debited and credited. You will always have that linked main accounts only, ledger accounts always getting debited and credited. So that's how I can see the voucher here with the two ledger accounts, alias accounts for bank, alias account for vendor. Okay. So then if I go here again to the same check, I refresh this check number 100. Now if I go to voucher, I can see voucher now. Since we have posted the journal, I can see the voucher visible for the check. The same voucher. Vendor pay 0000001 voucher number. So if I try to delete this check, this one, check number 100, right? Which is already paid. So it says check exists in the interval with status other than created. So if it is in the status other than created, then it can't be deleted. That's what it is saying. So you can't delete this check. So it shows clearly the details of what happened to the check paid. So you can also generate one more payment for a free check. Let's try it now for the SBI bank. So I'm going to new again, creating another vendor payment journal. I'm going to lines, select the same vendor since we only have one vendor, and then I'll just debit another $500 for this vendor. Select the offset account type as bank and offset account as bank. This one SBI bank, this time I'll select because for SBI bank we have given the free check mechanism rather not the fixed check number. So I can go to the method of payment. Here I can select check, method of payment as check. Now the next option is generate payment. So once after filling all the details, if you generate payments, you will see the check number appearing here once after generation, and payment status will change to sent from none. So and you see a check will be printed normally. So I'm going to generate payments, method of payment check. Export format is also check. Bank account we want to use SBI, right? So I'll select SBI bank account. Okay, click on OK. Bank account. So it is by default taking the check number as 1. So you can give any number if you want to. If you want 13, you can give 13. If you want 15, you can give 15. So it's free for you. Free check means it will work in any way. If you want to give 0001, you can, sorry, 001, you can give 001. Yeah, your wish. Free checks always comes with your own numbers. You can give your own number. Then go to document, select screen so that it will be printed on the screen. So I can click on OK. That's the whole difference between fixed and free. For fixed, it will take fixed numbers that we create in the bank account. For free, we can give any number as we wish during the generation of checks. So now I can see here, check number 1, it is taking here US dollar 500, 500 US dollars, Tata company. Then the bank details, State Bank of India, FD bank name is printed here. That's how the check is generated. Now, if I can see, check number is generated as 1 only, so it doesn't consider that zeros before. So just took 1. Then payment status is changed to sent, which means check is sent to the vendor, that you can say. So then you can post it upon acknowledging that the vendor has put your check in bank and the money is created from the bank, or if you expect anything, you can post it here. So you can post this payment. So it's posted. Again, you can see the voucher in which the accounts payable account will get debited for 500, bank account or the account linked to the bank, this one, right, SBI 0008 bank. So that is getting credited for 500. So this is the main account that is linked to the bank. This is the main account or ledger account that is linked to the vendor. So instead of vendor and bank, so you see these two accounts getting debited and credited. Now if I go here to the checks, so here I won't see checks because and this is ICICI check. So here I can see SBI check. Go to manage payments and checks now. So I can see check number 1 paid. So automatically check will be added. So no need to create any checks here in this bank. So it automatically checks will be added, kept on adding here once after you print any check for this bank. Paid status, paid to this vendor $500. There is another menu where you can see all the checks for all the banks rather than going to each bank separately to identify the checks. You can see all the list of checks here actually. Cash and bank management, payment reversals. Under that you have this option called as checks. Cash and bank management, payment reversals and checks. Click on checks. You can see all the checks. The checks of ICICI as well as SBI. This is SBI check 1. ICICI we have all these checks, right, out of which 1 is paid. Others are not paid yet. That's 1. So is it clear until here? I mean, how the check mechanism works and how how the check status will change according to the payment. You have any doubts here? If you have any, just ask me. Until here, what all we discussed now. Any confusion in the free and fixed mechanism of checks, please ask. Let's discuss about one scenario. Okay, let's assume that you have generated a check. Okay, in the vendor payment journal, like earlier, you have generated a check, but you did not post the check yet. Okay, but when you generated the check got damaged in the printer, or the details on the check got overlapped somewhere. It's not printed exactly in the place. So since the check was placed wrongly in the printer, it have printed crossly. So the check is of no use now. right? It's a fixed check, check number 101, suppose from the ICICI Bank. You have printed something on the check for generation of payments, and it's of no use now because it's damaged or wrongly printed. Then what will you do? That's the situation. You got my situation, right? You're creating a vendor payment journal here. Okay. Then you will go to lines. So select the vendor, Tata company, debit him for $1,200, suppose. Okay. Then select the offset account type as bank account. Offset account is ICICI Bank. Okay. Method of payment is check. Then go for generate payments. Check, check, and this is ICICI. Method of payment is check. Here already there. Export format is check. And bank account is ICICI. Click on OK. Check number 101 is taken. So that is the next number, right, in the fixed checklist. So it took the 101 automatically. You can go to document, select the screen to be printed on the screen. Okay, this okay, and click on OK. So check is printed now, as I can see, check for 1200. So at this particular situation, when check is printed, assume that check got damaged in the printer or somebody placed it wrongly in the printer, not in a correct position. So the details of 1000 has placed here in the bottom and this one placed here, not in exact fields where that details has to be placed in the not in the correct blanks. Okay, now the check is of no use, right? But check number 101 is damaged. Clear, guys, the situation for all of you. That if that check is damaged, and if I go to checks now, suppose here this check is showing as paid 101, but we did not pay, right? The check got damaged already. But once we generate, automatically it change the status to paid. So but we don't want that check, or it is of no use. We are just throwing it aside because it's already damaged and you cannot regenerate a check number 101 again, right? If it is a fixed check, you will have next check in your checkbook with 102. You can't generate again a check with 101 because the check is already damaged. So in that situation, what we have to do is we will not post a payment here because the check is already damaged. There is no point of making a payment here or posting here. So for that sake, we have to do something here. So that this is what called as voiding of check, this process. When the checks are damaged in our hand, before posting the journal, while printing or while generating the check, if the check is damaged, for the fixed check mechanism, we normally use this voiding of check option. So for that, you can click on payment status here, this one just above the payment vendor payment line, which where we have generated the check. You can see check number 101 is in the sent status now. So before posting it, go to payment status, click on this option called as rejected. You can only see one option here, rejected. So if you reject it, which means like check is rejected, or you are saying system that that particular check is rejected. Dynamics does not know, right, if the check is printed properly or not, or if it is damaged or not. You are saying now that that check is damaged, just show the status of the check as voided. Here I can click on rejected. So it is asking me, do you want to void check number 101? Yes, because it is damaged. Now the payment status changed to rejected. Now it's of no point. You don't have to post this journal, right? Because it's already gone. The payment status is rejected. Now if you go to checks and refresh this, you can see the check status change it to voided. Voided means you can clearly understand it is damaged or lost in your hand or damaged in your hand or in our hands only, in the business hands. So that's what the situation is. So this is called as check voiding, and the payment status changes from paid to voided. Okay. There are also different situations when check is posted. Suppose check is posted and sent to the vendor and vendor lost the check. Then what we can do? So that is another situation, and that would be all. That is there, and next again. So will show that we have that reversal option again for some checks. Suppose this check is paid, right? Paid and posted. We also posted the journal already for this check, vendor payment. You can also see the voucher. So in general ledger also financial impacts are done already. In the trial balance, the balance will get affected for these two accounts. But when we send this check to the vendor lost this check, or he could not place it in the bank, and it got damaged in the transit or lost in the hands of vendor somewhere. It is lost. So we have to reverse this check that we have paid. So while we reverse the check, the financial impacts also should get reversed. This voucher that we have here, right? The balances that are posted to these accounts also should get reversed, and financial impact should get nullified for this transaction. So for that we have another process that we will discuss tomorrow, reversal of payments.